I didn't have a cell phone till I was in my 30s. Rhea Perlman's son Elijah Blue has been fighting addiction for years. In December 2023, she went to court trying to control his finances, fearing he'd waste everything on drugs. The legal battle lasted 9 months before she dropped the case. But in June 2025, police found him acting strangely at home with drugs present. He was rushed to the hospital. At 77, Rhea watches helplessly as her son destroys himself. She's won 4 Emmys and earned millions, but she can't save the person who matters most. The guilt is killing her. Rhea Perlman was born on March 31st, 1948 in Coney Island, Brooklyn, into a home filled with quiet determination. Her parents were Jewish immigrants from Poland and Russia who had come to America chasing the dream that so many others hoped to find after World War II. Her father, Philip, managed a doll parts factory, not just working there but running the whole place, which gave the family a bit more stability than most immigrants had at the time. Her mother, Adele, worked as a bookkeeper to help make ends meet. This was just 3 years after the Holocaust ended, and in a Brooklyn neighborhood where new waves of Jewish families were trying to rebuild their lives, Rhea entered a world still healing, still changing. She grew up in Bensonhurst during the 1950s, a place that was tough but full of character. The neighborhood was mostly Italian American back then, but Jewish families like hers were moving in fast. Being the older of 2 sisters, Rhea was expected to help out around the house. Her younger sister, Haida, would later become a successful TV writer and producer, but back then it was just the 4 of them getting by. Her father worked long hours and her mother kept the home running. That kind of childhood didn't allow much space for softness. You learn to be sharp, to stand your ground, to help out early, and often that neighborhood taught her how to speak fast, think faster, and never back down. It gave her a gritty, no-nonsense attitude that would later shine through every role she played. A child, Rhea was drawn to performance, not through formal classes but through something much more old school. Her family took her to see Yiddish theater, one of the last golden eras of it before TV took over. These were shows filled with passion, humor, and culture that tied back to the old country. This mix of languages, emotions, and identity helped shape her idea of what acting could be. In those little theaters, tucked into Brooklyn's Jewish neighborhoods, she started to see the power of character and humor long before she ever stood on a real stage. But growing up Jewish in 1950s Brooklyn wasn't easy. Even in a place full of immigrants, anti-Semitism still existed. Rhea dealt with bullying, name-calling, and the kind of subtle rejections that stuck with you. Those early hits didn't break her. They built something in her. She learned how to fight back using her words. Sarcasm became her armor. Quick wit her weapon. That toughness wasn't just for survival. It later became her edge on screen, especially in roles like Carla Tortelli, the sharp-tongued waitress on Cheers who never let anyone get the last word. By the time she was 10, around 1958, Rhea had already started performing in school plays. One early role had her delivering lines with such perfect timing that teachers started to notice she was different. It wasn't just cute acting. It was real talent. She had something that made people laugh without trying too hard. And in schools where arts programs were limited, especially for working-class kids, standing out like that meant something. Even with no connections to show business, she found her way to the stage and never forgot how it felt when an audience laughed with her. She carried that passion into college, enrolling at Hunter College in Manhattan in the mid-1960s. She graduated in 1968 with a degree in drama. It was a turbulent time across the country with protests, civil rights marches, and growing anti-war movements. But in the middle of all that chaos, Hunter College was a place where actors were taught to challenge the norm. The theater department encouraged boldness, and students were surrounded by New York's wild experimental art scene. She wasn't just learning lines. She was learning how to speak truth through performance. This was where her love for gritty, real, flawed characters took hold. After college, Rhea took her first professional step into New York's off-Broadway scene. Her first known role was in a 1970 production called Dracula, Sabbath, which ran until June 1971. In 1972, she appeared in a feminist stage production called Up in Uppity Review, created by the West Beth Playwrights Feminist Collective. This wasn't just theater. It was part of the women's liberation movement. These plays weren't about polished performances or pretty sets. They were raw, angry, honest pieces about women's lives, and Rhea found herself drawn to them. She performed alongside Danny DeVito, who would later become her husband. They clicked both on stage and off, building a personal and professional bond that would last decades. That same year, in 1972, she made her film debut in a strange little student movie called Hot Dogs for Gone, directed by Martin Brest, who would later go on to direct Beverly Hills Cop. Rhea had a small part in it, but it was important for two reasons. First, it put her on camera. Second, she was cast alongside DeVito again, deepening their connection. Decades later, the Library of Congress would call the film a cultural treasure and add it to the National Film Registry. Even the Museum of Modern Art added it to its permanent collection in 2024. By the late 1970s, she was beginning to get noticed in television. In 1977, she appeared in a TV movie called Intimate Strangers, one of several small roles that built her resume. The next few years were full of auditions, rejections, and small appearances. She stood just 4 feet 11 inches in tall, and casting directors often didn't know what to do with someone who didn't fit the typical TV mold. But in those struggles, she learned persistence. Her big break wasn't far away. In 1982, she acted alongside Danny DeVito once again in a TV movie called The Selling of Vince.